Good morning. It's Saturday morning. I'm in a very good mood, but I have only 10 minutes of storage space on my iPad, so I'm going to crack straight into an update. Last time I spoke to you, I told you I was going to cast on 5 projects in 5 days. Hands up if you thought I was actually going to do that. I didn't. I cast on one and got so obsessed with it I didn't do anything else for days. So, it's the Sand Art Cowl by Gecko Knits. Now this isn't a pattern as much as a kind of concept, and even that isn't available on the web at the moment because the designer is doing workshops on it, and I caught a snippet of a workshop, got the idea and went off with it. So the concept is freeform knitting. Now I've done freeform crochet, I've taught freeform crochet, but crochet lends itself to freeform. I have never thought that knitting did, but actually it does. So the concept is that we're making a cowl, and we've got a set of stitches on a circular needle. We've done a little rib for the top, and then from then on you freeform. And the things you can freeform with are largely short rows, so we're using German short rows, that's my favourite, but you can use any form you like, and changing stitch patterns, like maybe doing moss stitch or seed stitch rather than just stocking stitch, garter stitch, eyelets, so yarn over and knit two together. I'm doing a bit of mosaic knitting, so a bit of slip stitches, a small amount of stranded knitting, and all kinds of different making it up as you go along type elements, throwing in different colours wherever you want, to make a picture that looks like a sand art. You know those sand art things where you turn it over and the sand drips down in different colours and it makes these beautiful art things. Very much an 80s and 90s thing, I think. If you're younger than that, you won't know what I'm talking about. So it's freeform basically, and you make it up as you go along. So it's a little chaotic and you may not like this, and that's fine, don't worry about it. As with a lot of my projects, you know, it doesn't have universal appeal. So here's what I've got. You can see straight away the shaping from short rows. You can see probably that this is all stocking stitch, but this is moss stitch or seed stitch. There's some eyelets, if I can zoom in on that. So a row of eyelets there, and then there's a garter ridge there. I've got a garter ridge that goes all the way round here. There's some slip stitches here. That's another moss stitch section. I've got a garter section somewhere, must have a garter section somewhere. More slip stitches. Yeah. And you just basically make it up as you go along. I'm sure there's a garter stitch section somewhere, but it doesn't really matter. So when you get near to the length you want to, you just kind of measure each bit and work out where the shortest bits are, add in some more there, and then just cast it off. So it doesn't have to be level at the bottom, just kind of sits. Now, this is a sort of a first project. It's beautiful, but you know, when a cowl sits on your neck, it's a bit ruffled up, so you're not really going to get to see the full picture of it. But this is just a start, because my friend Kathy and I, who are both doing it together, we are so excited by this, by the general concept, that we're getting totally carried away. So I have got plans for a top-down sweater. So it comes down to here, you divide for the arm, then you've got this straight body here, and that can be completely freeform. You've got your sleeve here, that can be completely freeform, and so can that. It's an amazing thought, and in the interim, we're both thinking about a shawl, where you're increasing maybe like a boomerang shape or a triangle shape or whatever, and you're freeforming in between. So different ways of showing off the fabric. It's very liberating and very exciting, but it's not for everyone. Interestingly, I have about 3 friends that I talk to pretty much every day, either on video chat or Instagram messaging or Messenger or whatever. And one of them came up with this idea, and that's Kathy in America, and we doing it together. My other 2 friends are not interested in a freeform thing, they prefer to follow a pattern. So it's really interesting how it splits the crowd. So what do you think? Would you want to do something like this? I mean, frankly, you've got all the information you need now. We just looked at other patterns that were fingering weight cowls to look at how many stitches, and that's all we needed. And you know, I do want to credit the designer, but I haven't seen the pattern and I haven't really seen much of what she says. So you don't need an awful lot, and it is a concept rather than a pattern. So what do you think? Would you give it a go? Do you like the look of it? Is it too chaotic for you? I am using, any of you who watched last year in December will know how excited I was about my Felt Fusion advent calendar. It gave me so much joy, and I made a beautiful Stephen West shawl with it. But I had some leftovers, and that's what I'm using for this. So I'm just randomly picking out colours and just going for it. But you could use a mixture of, I mean, you could do the whole thing in DK, you could do the whole thing in chunky, it's just obviously less stitches, bigger needle. You could mix in, you could just suddenly start knitting in DK. It's going to change that texture of it at that point, but you know, it's all doable. Yeah, absolutely loving it. What do you think? Tell me. So I cast that on and did nothing else for days. I was so obsessed with it. I then did actually have a chronic day. I had a very stressful day, and followed by I'm autistic, and certain types of stress just freak the hell out of my brain. And that was Wednesday. So Thursday I was in bed literally in the same place still all day. I couldn't move because of the pain in my head. And I'm much better now. So I've lost a whole day, but that's pretty much all I've done until yesterday. Now, do you remember, those of you who watched last year, that I started spinning? I bought some acrylic that I was going to use. I used to make an arm knitting throw, but it became very apparent that the cats would just shred it within 5 minutes, so it was no use to me. So I then had 2 kilos, which is about 4 pounds for you guys who don't work in metric, of acrylic fibre that I need to find a use for. So I started blending it with wool, about 50-50, in little batches, and then spinning it into yarn and triple plying it, so Navajo plying it. So I had all this yarn that I had made, but it was half the teal, you can see the teal that appears in both of them, and half wool. And I've been looking for a pattern for it, and I did come across a pattern, but my yarn is just a bit too thick for it, so I'm going to have to come back and do that. That's Tilted Tunic by It Crochet, who wrote the pattern for the bauble tee that I love so much. So I've discovered that, did a bit of swatching for it. My yarn's too thick for it. It was too stiff, the fabric. But I need to spin for that as well now. So I just started basically the jumper that I did with the Tour de Fleece, you know, the rainbow yarn with the black sleeves. I started another of those. I do love them so much. This is how far I've come. I don't know if I like it or not, but I probably do. So you can see that although I've blended it, there are some bits which are just completely wool, and there are some bits which are just completely acrylic, and then some blended bits. So I think it's probably fine. I need to keep spinning because I've only got a little bit of yarn left, and then that doesn't take me long to crochet that in. So that's another of my me-made wardrobe, my 10 garments for 2021. And so that, you know, all the other things that I've got them all still in bags here. I haven't started them. I haven't started the Scrappy V I was going to do. I haven't started skew socks, or the Macariri, or the socks I couldn't remember the name of. Did you see that in the notes? That's Voyage, and that's lovely because that's a link to Narnia. When Voyage of the Dawn Treader, there's been a film made of that, and they're just in a what are they doing? They're in their bedroom, and suddenly the bedroom fills up with water, and then they're in the ocean, and they get picked up by the Dawn Treader, and that's what the socks are named after. Anyway, got all that still set up, and I haven't done anything with them, but I will, probably this week, next week. So I'm rushing through it because I know my iPad's going to die any minute and tell me I can't store anymore. So that's where I'm at. I really, really would love to hear what you think of the Sand Art Cowl. So if you don't normally make comments, go on, just today, just for me, just make a little comment to me what you think of it, whether you would do it, what you think of the idea of freeform knitting. Okay, I hope you have a wonderful weekend, everybody, and that the commencement of spring is as exciting for you as it is for me. Happy crafting.